Hi and welcome back to Children's OT Top Tips. My name's Anna and I'm a Paediatric Occupational Therapist. Today's video we're going to be looking at tying shoelaces, and it's an area which a lot of children struggle with, and sometimes it can be really helpful to have a couple of tips and tools at hand to help a child that might be struggling. Before we start, I'm going to just talk about a few key areas and difficulties and things you can do to help, before later on at the end of the video I'm going to do a couple of visuals of how to physically do shoelaces and some of the ways you might want to teach. So if you want to fast forward to that part, please feel free to. So the first thing I want to say is that the average age for a child to learn to tie their shoes is approximately about 6 years old. Obviously that's spectrum in a sense, and some children might learn earlier and some children might learn later, but it's a hard skill to learn. It's a lot of fine motor skills, a lot of processing, and if a child is struggling in those areas then it can be really tricky. The first thing I'd want to say is there's nothing wrong with starting young and having a go at practicing, but knowing that the average age is about 6 is a good thing to know. Secondly is that adaptive shoelaces are brilliant, and there's a couple of different ones available on the market. I'm going to list in the description a couple, maybe like 2 or 3 of different ones that you can have a look at, but obviously there's lots to have a look on Amazon, online. But they are really good, especially for older children where they've had a go at tying their shoelaces and they still really struggle, and but they don't want to be in Velcro shoes, and but they still want to be able to get their shoes on and off quickly, and for no one to really notice that they haven't got laces. Then kind of adaptive laces are brilliant. In fact, a lot of adults use them anyway. There's different techniques to learn how to tie your shoelaces, and it's always the joke, I tie my shoelaces different to my husband, and I would say the best way to teach your child is to teach the way that you know. Obviously that can be quite confusing if, for instance, like myself, I do a shoelace a different way and my husband does a shoelace a different way. So if you're the primary person that's going to be responsible for teaching your child how to tie their shoelaces, try and teach it the way that you know, because that's been shown to be the most effective. Using visuals is really helpful for a lot of children. So you might want to get pictures of the different actions, or for instance watch the videos at the end of this and play them back with the child, and so you have the visuals as you're doing the different steps. Another technique is backward chaining, which there's a video about. Go and find that video, but in its simplest form, in terms of shoelaces, you want to look at the whole process of the shoelaces, break them down into the individual steps and work backwards through the steps so that the child completes it, having the sensation of independence in that sense. So the last step, for instance, would be pulling to finish the knot, and then you work backwards all the way until they're doing the whole process themselves. Shoelaces is something that you have to practice really regularly. It's quite easy to forget the skill if you don't practice it regularly. So trying to find time in the day to practice is really important. And it might not be the best time when you're on the way to school, on the school run, or when they're busy for PE and they've got a time limit to get dressed. But finding time in the day, every day ideally, to have a practice of your shoelaces is really, really important. Another way I've seen it work really well is where parents have coloured the ends of a practice pair of shoelaces. So one's the blue end and one's the green end, and then they use it to kind of identify which part needs to go where. And that can be a really effective way. I've also seen it work really well where you just, instead of practicing on a pair of shoes, you just practice with a piece of string round a pencil case, or round your own thigh, for instance, or anything that you've got. You can use that piece of string in your bag and you have a practice whenever you have got time to. That can be a really, really effective way. Whenever you're practicing, make sure that they're in a comfortable position, that they're on a decent chair with a high back. their feet are on the floor. It's nothing harder than trying to do fine motor skills when you're balancing on a high stool or anything where you're not supported, because it's just going to make it so much harder. So the two main ways of doing your shoelaces. There are other ways as well, but these are the two main ways that I'm going to talk about. So there's the bunny ears approach, and then there's the one loop method, which I call the rabbit in the tree. So I'm just going to talk you through those methods now. We'll start with the bunny ears, and then we'll move on to the one loop method. So the first thing we're going to be doing is making an X shape. We're going to cross our laces over to make an X. Then the one at the bottom is going to go up and through the hole, and then we're going to take either end and give it a pull, and that makes our first knot, as you can see. Then, once we've got our first knot nice and tight, the next thing we're going to do is make one loop, like so, to make one bunny ear. Then we're going to make another loop to make another bunny ear. We're going to hold our bunny ears like this with one finger and one thumb. Then we're going to do a cross them over again to make a cross shape. The bottom one is going to go all the way through the hole that we've made, as so, and then we're going to pull tightly to make a knot. So that's example 1 of how to do a knot. So we'll do it again. Put it over to make a cross. The one at the bottom goes through the hole, pulling it tight. We make one loop like that, another loop like that, hold them both with our fingers and our thumbs, and we make another knot and we cross the two bunny ears over. One goes through the hole, all the way through, and then we pull with both hands to make the knot, like so. The next way is the same principle. So we made our cross to make our knot initially. It's the cheat method. So a lot of shoes, if you can see, have holes on the side, so an extra little hole. What I sometimes like to do is, to make it easier for children that are struggling, is to take the end and pop it in the hole all the way through. And similarly with the other side, we take it, pop it in the spare hole all the way through so it doesn't fall out. We then have got our bunny ears without having to hold them as carefully. Then we do the same thing. We cross them over to make the knot. We put the bottom one through the hole and pull. Then what we need to do, because this was a bit more technical, we've got to then take them out of the hole. 1 and 2. So we've taken them out of the holes, and then we've got to grab our ears again, got to pull again, so it's nice and tight. And there we go, we've got our laces done up. We pull them back up to undo them, and stop like that. The next method is the one looped method. So the beginning is exactly the same. We're going to cross it over, make an X shape. The bottom one goes through the hole like so, and then we pull. Then we take one of our laces and we make one loop like so, similar to the bunny ears method, but we're just making one loop. And the way that I like to do this is do it like a story. So this is the tree, so we've made a nice long tree, and then this is the root of the tree. We don't touch the root of the tree, but we hold on to the bottom of the tree to keep it nice and strong. This is, the other lace is the rabbit. We don't touch the rabbit's tail, we take the rabbit by the head, and the rabbit goes all the way around the tree, like that, until there's a little hole, and the rabbit can see the little hole, and we take the rabbit's head and we push the rabbit through the little hole, like that, and we grab the other side, and then we take the rabbit's head and we take the tree and we give them a really good pull, like that, and then we've made our knot, as you can see. So we'll do it again, and we pull it out to undo it. So we've got our basic knot. So we do one loop to make our tree, we don't touch the root. Then we've got the rabbit, we take it by the head, it goes round the tree all the way until you can see a hole, and then you poke the rabbit head through the hole, take it the other side, both hands holding onto the tree, holding onto the rabbit, and you give it a really good pull. There we go, and then we've made our knot, like so.